Hello, everyone. Here we are with another one of our teacher interviews. Today we have Joe Simpson. Joe, wonderful to be talking to you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you for having me here today. It's very exciting. I'm Joe Simpson and I design fabric and quilt patterns. Yep.
And fabric and quilt patterns. Yeah, that's awesome. And how long have you been doing it for?
I feel like forever. Um, my mom started working when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7 at a local fabric shop, and she was the kids can sew teacher for
Mhm.
at least 25 years. And I took, I don't maybe all of her classes. I don't know. I felt like I was there a lot. And we lived on a farm. So if I was in town after school doing an activity, then I'd walk to the shop and she didn't get off till 6. So that was a lot of time to pet fabric, look at all the quilts, right? Just spend my time there. And then as I got older, I made all of our Barbie clothes and troll clothes. And you know that, I don't know, we call it ribbing, I think, like the cuff on a sweatshirt.
Yes, yeah.
We call it ribbing, like a jersey material kind of. It was like a little tube, like so it had one seam and you didn't have to finish the top or the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Barbies had all the colors, right? Like, and then the trolls, I remember making them wedding dresses, and I'd start with white fabric, and my mom had bins and bins of ribbons and lace, like all the embellishments, right? So, and those little tiny snaps that had 4 holes, and you had to hand sew them on.
Oh, yes,
That
goodness.
was how I do the back of them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, we call them Barbie hooks, but like little tiny hooks. I think you
Oh,
probably use
little
it on the back of a
flavors.
dress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Mm.
and lots of those I burned through too, right? So my sister would play with the Barbies stuff and I would just make them things. So
Oh, that's such a good partnership.
yeah. And then in high school, I made my first quilt. I brought it with me here.
Oh, wonderful.
Um, and it's funny because I say it's my first quilt, but my mom was the brains of it, right? Like she did all the math, all the cutting, and I just sewed at the machine, right?
Well, that still counts. Oh, look at that. And when was this? Was this in the 80s?
Would have been in the 90s, late 90s.
90s. I'm loving
Um,
the
this is
pattern.
my favorite piece. It's like little palm leaves and flowers.
Some
And I
uncanny
love the brights.
stars.
I
Yes.
don't know if it will focus.
Oh,
Um,
that's
and I
awesome.
still love these colors and the brights, right? Like
And it's in such good condition as well.
I actually don't let my kids use it. It's like the special quilt, right? Any other one in the house, fair game, right? But that one, it stays in the closet, which I was like, I should probably have it on display, right? I don't know why, but it stays in the closet and they're not really allowed to use it. So,
That is fair enough. That is fair enough.
yeah.
I'm sure you've made them plenty that are their own to play with and to use. Um, So I'm not surprised you're keeping that one special. So you've been quilting for a long time then, and that was your first quilt. How would you describe your design style now as it's developed?
Now, um, I've actually been working on larger block quilts. So
Hmm.
the flying geese would be, I don't know, 12 inches, 9 inches, like big pieces.
Wow. Yeah.
And it kind of showcases the fabric. Because
Ah,
before I was designing the quilt collections, and then I'd design a quilt and try to fit the fabric in, and then I'd have to redo some fabric, right, to make it how I wanted. So now I make the quilt first, and then the designs to fit in. So yeah, I'm drawn to big block ones. So the baby quilts that I'm working on right now are 36 inches wide, and it's pretty much one block.
wow.
And I always like thought sashing was granny-ish and stuff, right? So I never used it. But now it's like when it's the same color as the background, I was like, it puts all the space in the quilt. So I'm
Hmm.
learning about that, and I really like that technique now is a new thing I'm working on.
Oh, lovely. And do you, I guess, so that if well, what am I trying to ask? I'm blubbering, but um, like, have you seen your design style evolve over time, do you think?
Yeah, it's like, I have like I'm drawn to the modern with lots of background space. But then I wanted to do some block wood, like traditional blocks, but kind of modernize them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
and
it's interesting. Sorry, carry on.
no, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I know someone else that we haven't interviewed yet, but I know pretty well from the past is Joe Cunningham, who has a very like postmodern style, but he often takes traditional blocks and modernizes them as well. So it's just an interesting like mechanism that I think a lot of people think about when they're designing these things.
Yeah, because I picture when I get licensed with a fabric company, I'll have a fabric line and probably do a modern quilt with it and a traditional or some
Mm.
kind of mix. I don't know if that's how it works, but that's what I have in my mind. So
That makes sense. I had to fill out a form yesterday to sign up for my local quilt guild's round robin project, and you had to choose whether you wanted traditional or modern. And I was like, I kind of want both. But you're like, I'm not someone who's very firmly in one camp or another. I'm kind of open to everything. So
yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let's talk about your fabric. So when did you design your first fabric?
That's a hard one. I guess when I was pregnant with my first one, I
Mm-hmm.
would swim all day and design quilts. And I do applique, right,
Uh-huh.
to make the characters and things, right? And then one day it's like, why don't I just make the fabric with the characters, right?
Ah, yeah.
Like, but instead of trying to make it with the fabric. Um, and this was like a long time ago. Like I had so many applique patterns, right, for making quilts for friends and family and stuff. And I wish I would have kept them all because I could digitize them now.
Mm.
Right? Like they're gone. um, so yeah, then I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, started designing the fabric. And that's how I said I was trying to make the quilts after, and then
Mm-hmm.
switch that process around, and it's working much better.
And this is one of your designs in the background as well, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
such, and that's a panel.
Yeah.
And am I right that this is one of the ones that is in the giveaway?
Yes.
Is that right? That
And I
so
have
and win one of these.
yeah, there's a dark version that has a navy background. And I hate to say boy girl colors. This has the
Oh,
pinks and purples, and the other one is an orange mushroom with blue leaves, and then same in a light color.
that is, it's such a lovely design. And I mean, I feel like either color could go with either gender, if you
Yes.
don't like kind of have a preference. And so what's been the inspiration for these designs?
I guess I want to design kind of baby, younger child designs. And I picture a baby play mat on the floor and the baby's playing, but the older brother or sister likes all the characters on it, kind of
Mm.
thing, right? Kind of more for the sibling than the baby, but the babies need them, right?
Oh, that's such a
Kind of
lovely
like that.
idea. So
Yeah.
the older child could be kind of like making up a story or playing a game while the baby's just chilling out on a soft surface.
Yeah. That's what I just have that vision in my mind. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And you've also made inclusivity a key part of your fabric collection as well. Tell us about that.
Yes. So this little guy, he has a little cast on his leg.
Oh, I hadn't
Um,
noticed that. That's so cute.
yeah. The snail doesn't have anything. I was like, it's just hanging out.
This
Um,
snail's probably like ADHD or
yeah,
something.
yeah, something you don't see. Yeah. So I guess I was thinking about when you asked before about inclusivity and when it started, and I was like, I never really thought of that.
Mm.
And then I thought about it, right? And I think it's when I took an early childhood education program, and the teachers were all about multiculturalism in the books, the songs, authors of books, games, dolls, and yeah, and toys. And then I went to find the dolls when I opened my daycare and at Walmart and the shelves, and there was no multicultural, right? They were all Caucasian, right? So I ended up ordering them from those expensive teacher books, right?
Right.
So yeah, it was harder to find back then, but it resonated with me, right? Kids want to feel seen, they want to relate to the doll or the book, Like that's important, right? When they're little, but anytime, right?
Absolutely.
And then I was thinking another time I was in Louisiana working and I went to the laundromat and it was all Latino men. And I was the minority, right? And I couldn't even explain how I really felt, but I just felt awkward and they were looking at me. And after it's like probably the regular laundry time. Still don't feel like, who is this? Right? But I just had a different feeling. And that's kind of stuck with me when I started working at school. And there's lots of different um, ethnicities or
Yeah.
cultures, right? And so that was a big goal, was to make all the kids feel welcome, right? Like a smile, a hello, go have a little chat with them. Like it's important, right? It's big. You want them to feel like they belong there. So that was big. And then I worked with the kids that had diabetes at school. I helped them manage their health. And so that turned into more design inspiration. My mermaid collection, the one mermaid has a diabetes or a blood sugar monitor for her diabetes, and some have glasses, and another collection has a dog that has the hind wheels, right? So I try to just infuse little bits where the kids can see, right? Like maybe their mom wears glasses or they have diabetes too, or maybe their family's multicultural. I just want them to feel seen and relate to characters, I guess.
And so it's I guess it's not like it's inclusivity fabric. It's just that everyone is represented in a general fabric collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Just little bits here and there.
And where can people find these fabrics?
I have them on my website, is joesimpsondesign.com. Or you can check out my Spoonflower shop, and it's Joe Simpson Design.
Okay, lovely. And I will link both of those in the interview notes. So tell me about your workshop.
Okay. I don't know if anyone remembers back to when they started making binding, and you have the two ends and you have to cross them and you have to sew the diagonal line the right way, because if you do it the wrong way, it's just a mess, right? So that was
who always does it the wrong way first. Yeah.
Right. So that was one part of it. And then doing stripes, like I just love stripe binding. I don't know. You like it too, right? I don't know.
Love it. And I see it on the quilt behind you as well.
Yes.
It's just
Yes. That one, I actually had little butterflies for the binding. It was aqua with kind of a teal butterfly on. And then I was like, oh, I'll just pull some colors and see what a stripe would look like. Right. Sure enough, it has stripe binding now. But the butterflies are still there if you want to do butterfly binding. So I'm doing stripes, and you want them to line up in the binding, right? Like, and if they don't, that's okay too. So I would take I should have brought a binding strip. I take the strip and I fold the one side on what would it be? A 90 degree. So it makes a 45 angle. Yeah. And then I set that on the other strip and line up the stripes. And then I reach under and pin it, and then fold it up and pin it. And then when you sew it, your stripes match up. So the workshop is step by step how to do that. It's all zoomed in, so it's easy to see. But it just makes binding so much easier. So
I keep saying this to everyone. So, but this is one that I'm really looking forward to, because my binding is like kind of done with thoughts and prayers rather than any actual skill. And the corners are always like good enough. But not so good. And I've had on the occasions where I've entered quilts into shows, I've had the judges say binding requires additional attention and things like that. Oh God. But who looks at the binding of a quilt? I mean, honestly, but anyway, but yeah, I think this is going to be awesome. So yes, definitely looking forward to this. And tell me, like you've talked about designing, what are your inspirations for all these things? Obviously the children you work with have been huge inspirations, but like when you're designing a quilt or something, like who are you being inspired by?
I guess I've never had an inspiration block. Like, I'll wake up in mornings, think about like, oh, Kat's having a birthday party. That would be a great fabric collection, right? And then the quilts kind of come after I have the designs.
Mhm.
But lately I've been working with some quilters in a mentor group, and I've been waking up thinking about their patterns and like how I could put my fabric in. And I'll just share some of the ladies in our class. There's Aline McClay, and she has this black and white bold graphic,
Mhm.
and it's really neat. And it kind of curves. And I was like, oh, the black parts could be my charcoal fabric with the rainbow butterflies. And then the rings could be all different rainbow colors, right?
Mhm.
So I just wake up thinking of that. And Hillary Jordan, she has one, and I made my husband a quilt when we were dating. So like it's old, it's threadbare. It goes in the dryer. I know. It's the only quilt that goes in the dryer, I think, in our house, but
I
it
always,
does. And
I
it
think it's great to have things that are worn out from you.
it's like,
Is that you want things to be loved and used when you make them.
yeah, you can see batting in some of it. So I was like, I need to make him a new one. And then I was thinking of hers, and I was like, it'd be perfect. And he picked out a wintry kind of blues and grays color palette. So I was like, that'll fit good in hers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Erin Kidd made this really cute one with hearts. It's a kind of and she made a like a creamy, I want to say creamy, like light color jelly roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like creamy jelly rolls. Right? It's like, um, and it's what I want to make too, but I want to do the same fabric. Like I really like her choice there. And then Vicky, I can't think of her last name. She's EB Quilts by Vicky, and she's doing this. I don't know if it's a giant snowflake, but it's kind of past my skill level. So I think it would be a neat one to try and do
Mm.
skill building. She has half square, I don't know if it's called half square rectangles. It's half, I
Wow.
don't know what they're called. Is that what they're called?
I get. I think so. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like half
Oh,
square
okay,
triangle,
right. So I was like,
but she's
I've
got a rectangle. Yeah.
yeah, I've never tried those. So I was like, it would be a neat one to do too. So I guess they don't inspire me to make quilts, but like I want to do things with their quilts. So
Yes.
try
Okay.
them
Well,
out.
that totally makes sense. Gosh, how many? If you didn't come up with any more ideas after today, how many quilts do you think you could make? Like that you'd already thought about making? It sounds like you've got a lot of potential designs in your head, and you could
I
probably
want,
stay
I
busy
know,
for a year or two.
I want to say enough for 20 years, but they're probably exaggerating. But yeah, definitely no shortage.
Oh, that's amazing to have that much inspiration and have that kind of well of inspiration ready to go. That's yeah, that's really special. So we're talking in November, but the interview will go live in January. So do you have things in mind for 2024 that you would like to achieve?
Oh, yes. Um, okay, so this is coming out in January. So we'll be partway through. There's a Sprout Quilt Challenge I'm part of,
Oh,
and it's
lovely.
11 quilt pattern designers that went together and each
Mhm.
made different blocks. And it's a skill builder one. So it's got lots of different elements. If you want to check it out, I don't know.
Absolutely. What element does your block focus on?
Mine is applique,
Oh, nice.
and I did a fold under, but it's machine because I don't know. Do you do hand sewing?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I don't do any. It's like,
That's fair enough.
you
It's
could
not
hand
for
sew it
everyone.
or you could machine sew it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to this in the interview
Okay.
notes.
Thank you. So, yeah,
And
if you
then,
want to learn a new technique, or if anyone wants to revisit a technique maybe they've done in the past, it's one of
perfect.
them.
Yeah, no, this
Yeah.
I know people love these kind of things exactly because of that, because you get to revisit and learn all sorts of things. And then I think you mentioned in another conversation that you had a fabric company that you were approaching about having a fabric line.
I'm trying. Yes. I'm printing portfolios this week, and sending some out. So fingers crossed.
And how do you go about that kind of thing? Because I'm sure there's lots of people that are curious about how, how you become the next Tula Pink or something like
Okay.
that.
So first you kind of have to research the companies, see where you'd fit, and you're close to some of the designers' work, but not too close, if that,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you have to find out their art director's name or email or the mailing address, whichever route you want to go. Sorry, my dogs are barking. It's probably delivery. Um, sorry. So you reach out to them. I made a portfolio and emailed it out. It's kind of like a lookbook. I have some of my quilt designs, then the collections. And I've emailed some of those out, and I've got some really good feedback on what they're looking for or not looking for. And now my next round, I'm printing like I've added in the hedgehog collection that wasn't in there before. And I'm getting the portfolios printed, and then I'm going to mail them. So let's see how that goes.
Great. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Yeah.
But it's just such an interesting thing to find out how people, get into the industry and how they make their way. But there's one thing that people have said to me in the past, and I always think of, it's not particularly elegant, but a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so you've got to go out there and put yourself into uncomfortable situations and expose yourself, as it were, to the world. But yeah, it's great. I'm so glad you've had positive feedback and helpful, constructive feedback as well, because I think people are often keen to help others.
Yes.
And it's just asking for that help to access it. Oh, wonderful. And tell me, what are some highlights or achievements that you're particularly proud of in the quilting hemisphere? It's like either in your business or in your personal making life.
It's a hard one. One thing, it's been on the back burner for on my mind for a long time, and I finally created and produced a beginner quilt class. Right, for those ones that are sewing but just want to learn how to make a quilt. You just want to share it, right? It's
Yeah.
Right. And I've had friends like, oh, can you teach me to quilt? And it's like, yeah, but we never get to it, or they live further away. So now I can be like, here you go. So that was a big one that's been not even in the works for a while, but on my mind for a while. And I was thinking, like, all the friendships I've been making, right? When you take a class and then you're in a peer group and then you just mesh well, then it just turns into just a wonderful group kind of thing. So
yeah, is that how the mentor group that you're in now formed?
Yes. I was in it last year. It's with Elizabeth Chappell's quilt pattern writing course. And last year's group was just wonderful. It's like we were friends forever, right? Like it was just comfortable right away, and we're together. That's who I'm doing the Sprout Challenge with.
Oh, brilliant.
Those friends. And then this year I was a mentor, so I had my own group, and I think it's going really good. It's kind of wrapping up, but we're going to keep meeting. So I think that's a good sign, because sometimes I've been in groups and they just fizzle, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think
that
we'll
happens.
do that. The WhatsApp chat that just goes quiet and there's but one person still posting. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, well, I'll put links to these things in the interview notes as well. All right. Well, it's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much, and hearing about your story and your inspirations. I envy you. I'm never sure what to make next. And so I envy people that have got like all this potential inspiration and motivation inside them. But I've been fascinated. I'm sure other people will be fascinated too when they watch this. And thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me. This has been a wonderful experience to be on with you.
Thanks.